hello to you, I am ASMR Weasel, and today, well, I will be talking about a somewhat different topic than ASMR, even though this is an ASMR channel. I occasionally do videos that, well, are not exactly ASMR, but I hope that this video may just bring some information and light on subjects some of you may not have that much knowledge about, and what it can help those people who have the same diagnosis as me, maybe, hopefully. And maybe it can even make a few of you feel calm, relaxed, and good, even though it's not an ASMR video. So yeah. So today, this is the third video in which I'm talking about this. The third of 4 planned videos about this. And 2 of them I've done, and this is the third. So I have mild autism. In the last video I called it Asperger's, but there was a comment that Asperger's wasn't exactly a politically correct term these days. So I'm going to go with calling it mild autism instead. The reason why I'm not calling it full-scale autism in my case is because I don't have high-functioning autism. People with high-functioning autism are people who often are almost completely unable to connect with the outside world. They have so high-functioning autism. They are often stuck completely inside their own heads and words. They are very intelligent at the one interest they often have, but they are often stuck with, they are often not able to communicate much with the outside world. But I have, you could call it soft autism or very mild autism, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So for people with mild autism, life can also be challenging, but for most people with mild autism, they're fully aware of what is going on around them. They're a part of the world and they interact with the world and people. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I just think that given that I have mild autism myself, I just think it's important to just sort of talk about it. So I'll use myself as an example right now because it's, you know, what's easiest for me, but there are a lot of examples of them. So I struggle with, and I hope this sort of helps to just listen to this, maybe help other people who have mild autism too. So I struggle with, well, I have very much social anxiety in crowds or with strangers, for example, and I can struggle with some practical stuff. Like I can, you know, the basic things like showering, you know, the basic things like showering or just cleaning up dust and stuff like that I can do. That's not where I struggle. But the more complicated practical stuff can be a challenge for me. Yeah, for example, I cannot really do any practical jobs because I have no idea how. No, I'm not really much of a practical person at all. I'm a very theoretical person. And by that I mean that I can do very well in writing and in doing history and stuff like that, but when it comes to super practical stuff, I'm not that good, to be honest. No. And but there are some practical stuff I can master too. I also have social anxiety, so I can get very nervous in huge crowds or when I meet strangers. I am fully comfortable with people I know, and with them I pretty much just like any human. I can joke, I can talk, I can interact. I am actually very, very chatty. That means I talk a lot if I begin to talk. Yeah, some of you may already have noticed that in my videos. For me, it was a challenge to begin doing this, to film videos and put myself on YouTube, because for a guy with even mild autism, that is quite a step, because but of course you have no idea how the response is going to be, and yeah, that definitely challenges my social anxiety a lot. Of course, over the months I have been comfortable with it, and now I'm not afraid of being in front of the camera anymore, and I hope maybe that maybe just will inspire some other people with mild autism too, to perhaps dare to take the step to try and achieve their dreams, to show that it is possible to defy barriers inside you. For example, I can also tell you that a few years ago I actually even struggled with just going outside the door and taking a walk. But I took it gradually, I challenged myself, I took it gradually. I took one step at a time, and over time the fear ceased to be, and now I can take walks and hikes outside without problem. Mm. Many people with mild autism can struggle, especially in younger age. I did not have a great time at youth school, because that was not a fun time in my life, because I couldn't really connect with anyone else. So there was really no true friends there. In a way, I mean, I just didn't feel comfortable at all, so that wasn't fun. But when I got into a disability class afterwards, and that went much better. Although I didn't connect so much with the people who were at my age, I connected with some of the adults who worked there, and this is not uncommon for people with mild autism. A lot of people with mild autism will often connect to people who are older than them, rather than people who are at their age, and this is especially if they are in their teens. And that I think is because a lot of people with mild autism often have very different interests, and many of them are very smart or intelligent. I'm not saying I am that, but many are, and so they like to speak about deeper subjects and stuff than perhaps most teens do. Of course, not every person with mild autism is the same. There exist some very social people with mild autism too. For example, I knew a guy in the disability class who was a much more social type. So it's not like it's the same for everyone. People with mild autism have different personalities too, just as anyone else really. What's challenging about having mild autism is that it can be trouble finding new friends, because you're not really the type that goes out and gets to know people, because you're not comfortable with that. And it can be difficult to just move on your own and just sort of cope with some of the practical stuff that isn't that much of a problem for other people. Because most people with mild autism probably has support and help from their families. I'm not saying all do, but most people hopefully do. And of course, the social anxiety bit can be very difficult at times. Now, I am relatively lucky, I'm not complaining, because my social anxiety isn't as bad as some people is. You know, I can actually, if I want to, go to the store and buy stuff, and I can, and without a problem, and I can, and if some stranger starts to chat with me on the road for some random reason, I do chat back, and so in my case it's not always super visible that I have mild autism. But you know, let's say if you have met me, for example, you would have to say hello to me for me to start chatting with you, because otherwise I'll most likely just walk past you, because I'm not comfortable with just suddenly start and chat with complete strangers. That's way outside my comfort zone. Anyway, a lot of people with mild autism probably feel the same. One of the more positive things with having mild autism is that you can really be enthusiastic about your hobbies or the stuff you enjoy. I have many hobbies and I'm enthusiastic about all of them, so I always have a lot of stuff to do and interest myself in. and in my case it is writing and doing this, filming videos, which has been an interesting hobby of mine recently, and of course also just really well helping others by doing these videos, but also just being enthusiastic about film franchise like the MCU in my case, or books or anything really, or even history, which I also love, or politics and political history. I love watching elections and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's so I at least have a lot of interests to keep me occupied in my day. Yeah, but now a lot of there are sometimes where people confuse mild autism with high functioning autism, but they are very different. Because a person with mild autism, you can befriend and you can get to know a person with mild autism like any other person. A person with very high functioning autism, you can also get to know at a plane, but it has to be at a different level, because a person with high functioning autism isn't always able to connect with other people in the outside world in the same way as other people. They just, to some people with high functioning autism, it is so much that you almost never even see them smile, I think. And so one has to, it's very important that one differs between the various autism functionalities here. Mild autism is of course a completely different thing, because it's not always you can see on those people that they have mild autism, because some of those people can actually walk outside and just enjoy their days like any regular person really. And if you chat with them, some of them will chat back and it will not really seem like they have autism. You cannot really see on me what I have mild autism if you don't know me. No. So there's a difference there. But what I hope to achieve with this video is that I hope to show other people with mild autism who find this video that they can defy the barriers. But I know it's difficult. I used many years to do it, a lot of practice to do it too. But often for lots of people with mild autism, as they get older, they manage to excel more and more in life. And a lot of people with mild autism will find that being an adult is far easier than being a child. At least for me that was the case. Being a child was not difficult, especially seeing as I wasn't diagnosed before I was in my late teens. So there wasn't really much understanding for how I was. I mean, I enjoyed just being for myself and just philosophizing and thinking, but not everyone understood that, because they wanted to force me to be social with other people, and even when I didn't want to. Of course, eventually they stopped that. And then later, when I wanted to actually have friends and be social with people, there wasn't that much help, really, to achieve it. But things worked out for me fine anyway. And actually, a few years after my disability class, I took some adult courses, which is pretty much high school level stuff, and I got top grades in history class, which was sort of nice, because my teacher said that the way I wrote and the way I wrote and the way I presented my writings about history was like university level stuff. She told me. So that was a very nice feedback. So she thought that if I wanted to go on path of education, I will do really, really well, and probably end up at a university, or at least that's what she thought. So what I'm trying to say is that for a lot of people with mild autism, things can be difficult in childhood and in youth, but things can improve as you grow up and as you become older, and as you find new friends, maybe, because as you grow older, you will be in the same age of people who are older too, and often people who are a little older may have an easier time, not always, but often have an easier time of understanding people who are different than people who are in their teens, but we absolutely are teenagers who understand people who are different. I think for a person with autism, being a teen and being in a teen environment among normal people can be very difficult. Until the age of 16, that was the case for me. That's when I got into a class for people with disabilities, and that's when things started to improve for me. And then I don't want this video to be about me really, but I have to use myself as an example because it's really the example I know most about. But I just want to tell anyone with mild autism that even though it can be difficult at times to have that diagnosis, or that things often will improve as you get older. I'm not saying it will, but I think it likely will. Like, I think for most people it actually will. I know there's no guarantee in life, but at least for me it did. And now I am filming these videos, and I actually, even while it's a small channel, I admit that after all I did manage to get 1,000 subscribers, and I know that's a small channel, but for someone with mild autism, that's actually quite surprising for me, given what you have is social anxiety. You wouldn't really believe you could really get even that, but I did. So I hope that if anyone with other people with mild autism watching this, I hope you know what you can sort of eventually, with years and training, defy your barriers and maybe achieve what you dream of, even though it can be a long path to those dreams. And that's the point really. But I don't want anyone to give up, even though life can be very difficult at times. I want you to believe in yourself and to see your own value, and to maybe, once you feel that you have achieved your dreams, can use those dreams to help other people too, including people with the same diagnosis or mild autism. So I just hope that my words in this video can be of some comfort, knowing that there are those of us people with mild autism who do defy our barriers and who can make it well in life despite the syndrome and diagnosis. And this is also the case for any other syndrome or diagnosis as well, like Tourette's or ADHD or all others really. Now, and of course remember that now, just before, so there's no misunderstanding here, I'm not talking about me now, but there are some highly successful persons with autism, ADHD and even Tourette's. So remember that those diagnoses and syndromes does not need to stop you in life. It has not stopped me, and hopefully it won't stop any of you either. So I hope you just appreciated this video and me just talking about some of the challenges of having mild autism. Like for example, there are some technical stuff that can be challenging, and and some and of course if I'm just struggling to find an example here, because there are a lot of basic things I can do. Even I can film and set up the film settings on my own. I can of course I can go to the store if I want to, but there are some practical stuff that are challenging too. Just how to think of it. Like for example, if I had to fix something, I would not be able to do that on my own. Like if something broke in the house and I had to fix it, that is way outside my area of expertise, to put it mildly. And yeah. So that's just one example, really. and of course sometimes, or of course just cooking my own food. I don't know how to do what either, so there are some practical stuff that I'm not really good at doing or able to do, and what I'm sure a lot of other people with mild autism struggle with as well. But I hope that this video can give you some courage and some helpful words to know what whatever barriers you have in life, they don't need to stop you. And hopefully you have supportive friends and family who can help you if you need it. And if not, you can always comment in the section, and I promise I'll respond very nicely. I'm a very kind person with lots of empathy. And just to be clear, I know there's a myth out there, but people with autism doesn't have empathy. That's a myth. There are lots of people with autism who have empathy. While it's true that some people with autism doesn't have as much empathy as others, it's the belief that there is that people with autism in general doesn't have empathy is a myth. There are lots of people with mild, especially with mild autism, who have lots of empathy. I have lots of empathy, and which I'm sure some of you know from my videos, and I care about other people and the people around me. And yeah, and I understand them actually. So I can see when they're upset and stuff like that. So just to clarify, just to sort of be a mythbuster and just sort of clarify that myth is not true. No. Anyway, if you just need some helpful words, I hope this video helped. And if you want to comment, I promise I'll respond nicely. I will always respond nicely. Yeah, so long as you're nice, I am nice. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helped you, and I hope you have a great day.